Serendipity. Finding something good without looking for it.
This is going to be one of those weeks where I would relish the opportunity to play a famous commercially known song at the close of today's show as the play-out tune if it weren't for the out-of-date music licensing, Neil. Yes, you're right. And you've guessed the one I would have chosen by the title of the show today, surely. Would it be the U2 classic? Still haven't found what I'm looking for, Neil. Oh, you're on fire today. My other listener is looking at me bedazzled and all discombobulated. What do you mean the song at the end of the show? You mean you haven't heard the end of the show? You've never listened through that far? So you're missing the final words, the PS, the postscript, the pithy quote that rounds up my feelings from what can sometimes be 2 hours of show. I am working at that, by the way. I truly am. And then the play-out song, which sort of does the same, but it's usually somehow, if not sometimes, tenuously tied into the theme of something said by me, or more usually a letter or the guest. That's my other listener. That's what you'd be missing. But yes, the U2 song would have been perfect. Bono's Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. A song inspired, I did look this up, but I've read about this before, inspired by a religious experience Bono had while travelling in Ethiopia. And knowing one of our extra milers, Lynn Fraser, the Fraser clan, talking to her last week a little bit more about her time spent travelling in Africa and Ethiopia, which she did earlier this year, I can understand how for many that could be quite the religious or spiritual experience. Joshua Rothman, who is a writer, he writes for the New York Times. He wrote, and this fits very well today, actually. It's a song about searching for meaning or transcendence. And the most interesting thing about the song is that you don't find it. It's all about the search. If you can hear some beeping in the background, that's because, well, usually when I make this walk, I'm back in England land, having been in Scotland land last week. Usually, I wait till further up this track before starting my walk, but I thought, no, we walk through an industrial area. Just put the mic on, Neil, and start recording. And then, of course, the lorry with the longest reversing in history decides to interrupt our show. Shall I pause this for a second, pups? No, just walk on. All right. Anyway, part of the thoughts about U2, they are important. Well, we've passed our 400th, haven't we? We're at 401 today, 401 episodes. I feel a tune coming on. Pups, no, not in there. Too cold today. Come on. Whew. You don't want to go on a river today. 401 episodes in, the Photowalk. You and I, making some pictures with our cameras or smartphones, sketchbooking our walks together, enjoying the letters and inspirational stories that you've sent in. Oh, there's a bike. Sorry, hiya.
Okay, no worries, thank you.
Cool. They're like stealth sometimes, aren't they? Hey, pups, stealth, aren't they? Whoosh. Where did he come from? A show for hikers, walkers and photographers of whatever kind of experience. A show for those who find escapism and peace away from the noise of this world, putting miles under our feet and making a picture or two to remind us of where those footprints were left. That's what this show is about. And before I take the first of today's nature-blessed step count, although we must have done a couple of hundred already, and tease you with a few words from today's guest, I'd like you to know how blessed I feel to have the most incredible support from you and our extra milers and from mpb.com, who are our wonderful sponsors. I've got to make a photograph in a moment using, would it be the X100V that you bought from mpb.com, Neil? Yes, it would. And I just happen to be coming up to one of my favourite buildings in this industrial park. The reflection on the river is perfect today. It's a very old building with pipey things. That's about as technical as it gets, sticking out. And I love the reflection. Shutter speed 9/50th, f5.6. What are we on? ISO 160. Bang, there we go. A sketchbooker to start the day. mpb.com is a website where you can safely buy, sell and trade quality used photo and video gear online and become part of the circular economy. Why buy new when you can buy quality new to you? And when I mention sustainability, it's a real reason why I use them. I like that they don't buy acres and acres of plastic bubble wrapping of doom that ends up in the sea at some stage. And if you're buying, you get peace of mind with a 6-month guarantee. mpb.com. It's a very easy to use website. Don't get in there, pups. I'm doing the MPB mention and you're trying to swim in what is almost becoming the icy waters of the Kennet again. mpb.com is an easy to use website, and it's helping photographers to buy quality used kit or sell gear you no longer need to free up some cash and give others a chance to make their stories. Go to mpb.com, and as always, of course, I'll pop a link on the show page today.
Today on the Photowalk.
You know, it doesn't matter what your dream is, it doesn't matter what you want to do with your life. If you don't do it, the only person that loses is you. I also stand as a beacon, as a lighthouse really, to other people that are in a job that they don't like doing, that look at life and think, God, I wish I could climb mountains, I wish I could do whatever I want to do. It's the chase, it's the hunt, it's the methods of trying to find it, it's the pursuit. That view that you're looking at there in front of you was recently voted the 6th best landscape view in Britain. That's enough to open your curtains in the morning and think, I'll just sit and see if I can spot a monster today.
That's Steve Feltham, who for decades has been searching for what lurks beneath the Loch of Ness, or the waters, in the waters, below the surface, I'll get there, of Ness. And in many ways today, because he's not a photographer per se, not that that should matter. In many ways today, there's a strong life metaphor in terms of what I talk about with Steve in what is otherwise going to be today a letters show. A show I've been meaning to do for a while now. Catch up with some of the letters. So letters and thoughts from you today, and stand by for this. This is what we have. Dive bombing seagulls and a rampant panda. Yes, you did hear correctly. We climb aboard the RV, stop life in the fast lane for life in the life lane. We go for a walk in Australia land, where one of our fine extra milers has recorded her thoughts in audio as she takes her morning walk, looking for, as we all are, I think, to some extent, our Mallee's tree. Also climbing life's mountains, photographing a perfect Greek, is it sunset or sunrise? I think it's a sunset. And lazing around on a surfboard, escaping to the deserts of our lives, or should that be dessert? In which case, mine is a Knickerbocker glory with a thumping great cherry on top. Anyway, they're the letters, they're the subjects, some of the subjects we're talking about today. Shall we walk? Checklist out. Coffee, check. I have today, yes. Garibaldi's, check. Walking boots, check. Let's walk. I've been meaning to do a slightly more concentrated letters show for a while now, and this show, following the busyness of the retreat show last week, and because I like surprises and the chaos of disorder, there's a real mix of newish recent letters and a few that have been maturing nicely in the must do soon file. And I'm starting with a letter from Rampant Panda. What? Have you been sniffing the dandelions already, Neil? No, I promise you I haven't. I tell you what, everything's a good deal stronger after a strong dousing. Two strongs in the same sentence, Neil. Refer to yourself to the back of the class. A good dousing of rain in the last 24 hours has made everything, can smell the countryside. And I don't mean that in a negative, they're doing the fields way. I just mean everything sort of comes alive. All your senses come alive after a good dousing of rain. But no, I've not been sniffing the dandies. Rampant Panda is his artist's name, or perhaps his real name. I don't know. Who knows? He hails from a part of the world I'm yet properly to decipher the humour. Dear Neil, I have a Photowalk story to share with you. Settle in, pull up a chair, here goes. The story starts in Finland during the 1970s. Don't worry, I haven't been walking continuously ever since. It's just, let's say, prequel to the story. Anyway, my parents were working class people, and during those times, the working class in Finland, or Finland land, was so poor they had to make babies themselves. Panda. Or do I call you rampant? I don't know. This sounds like history according to Philomena Kunk. British comedy, beautifully left field. Sorry if you have no context, I'll come back to her. Anyway, Neil, my parents did the best they could under the circumstances, and that was, well, me, being born. Everything seemed to be mostly okay. Of course, there were a few bugs and features that were brought to light as I grew older, but that's expected for a DIY project, much like myself. Now we skip more than 40 years. So the story starts to look much less like an attempt at a national epic, and there's less talk about making babies. Only a year or so ago, he says, I found out that my parents had, totally by accident, and working with what they had and knew at the time, given me only 2 cusps for my aortic valve, which should be tricuspid, according to the blueprints. That sounds awfully minor. It doesn't to me. And for a long time, it really didn't matter. But gradually, the valve started to leak more and more, causing blood to flow back and forth into the heart. And you really want the blood to flow only one way in that part. Thanks to the wonders of medical science and the Finnish healthcare system, I was promptly opened up and the valve was replaced with a brand new mechanical one. They even replaced some of the aorta while they had the hood open, so to speak. I spent a week in the hospital, starting my walks with a walker instead of a camera, from the distance of 2 paces, working up to 100 metres or so during that week. Fast forward about 4 months, I was accompanying my wife in our capital for an art project she was doing. She went to do her thing, and I found myself in a city, with nice weather, with a camera in my hand, without adult supervision. So I walked. And, I took pictures. I talked to people, I watched them doing what they do, and I snapped away. I clocked 10 miles, which was about 6 miles more than I'd walked since the operation. Oh, my heart was fine. It should be working better than new now, but the rest of me, that wasn't so fine. I finally limped to the train and suffered the 2-hour journey back home with pretty much everything hurting, but with some nice pics and a belief that, maybe it's going to be okay, even after it starts hurting. When my wife called and asked if I needed a ride from the railway station or if I wanted to walk home, what? There was a choice? I said, I'd like the ride, please. Could you park as close as possible? I'm attaching a picture from the walk to this email. The rest of the stuff that made it through the culling is here. Oh, I tell you what, it's 10 miles in Helsinki. I'll put a link on the show page today. So lessons learned from this photo walk. Your core muscles, A, support you when you walk, B, deteriorate during long inactivities, and C, really hurt if you ask too much too soon. Overdoing stuff needs to be done in moderation. Don't clean your sensors with a napkin. That's a bit of a left field one, after all the health ones. Even if it's a really clean napkin, it hurts more than it helps. And, seagulls don't mess around. Cheers. Your monochromatic, partially mechanical friend, Rampant Panda, who, I might add, adds his own quote for the day on the end of his email. Making sense of nothing making sense. Perfect. I see a T-shirt already. The picture you've sent in shows that in any part of the world, those gulls by the sea, or gulls of the sea, I know they fly inland as well, they are really, I think they've been designed to mug us for food. We need to just be standing close by with a camera and wait for the magic to happen at the expense of somebody else, I appreciate. Especially if, and I'm not suggesting you do this, of course, but especially if you throw a chip in the air, not that I've ever done that, by the pier in Brighton at lunchtime, where all the tourists were sat, with my camera poised and ready. Anyway, you can see Rampant Panda's picture on the show page today, and I will leave a link returning to somebody I was talking about a moment ago, to the wonderfully satiric Philomena Kunk too. And yes, I do wince with a little discomfort every time I say that, just like the continuity announcer must on the BBC whenever the show goes out. It's a sort of it's a sort of history programme, as you will find out when you watch the clip. And my Finnish listeners, of which we have at least 7, will be able to counter my flippant aside about your country's humour. Though Rampant Panda, spot on with the humour. I love your letter. I appreciate you had to go through quite a lot before you were able to pen it, but I'm very appreciative. So much so, I'm going to be sending you one of my, the new ones as well, actually, the new model, famous, not so famous flasks. Your stories are what make this show. Most weeks, with the exception of just a few, it's we have a studio guest who we listen to between the steps that we take on the show. We've got a guest today, not so much studio based though. Not at all studio based. Recorded as I spent time on the Photowalk on the Scottish retreat last week. Steve Feltham is his name. You've met him already, I know, but he'll be chatting to us shortly. Just a short chat. Just a chatette, as it were. If you'd like to send your letters in, though, then that really fuels the show. Please send them to stories@photowalk.show. Stories@photowalk.show. Wherever you've been walking, wherever you live in the world, any stories that you have. If you want to send a picture, 2,500 pixels wide, if you can manage to do that for me, please. Otherwise, just send the full resolution, and I'll do as I say. Is it the heavy lifting, Neil? Yes, it's the heavy lifting. So send those stories in, and just a reminder that you don't have to send pictures. We do have with the roll I do have letters sitting in the inbox that are thoughts, memoirs actually, as well, coming up over the weeks and months ahead of us. This next one is from Bill Darby, he of the bill with only one L. It seems they were short in the L department that year. A world shortage of L's. Only one per first name was allowed. Hello, Neil. Well, it's been a minute since I last wrote. Following a winter of RV travel through the western US and the Baja Peninsula of Mexico, we enjoyed a frantic spring, selling the house, pivoting my business to be 100% remote and preparing for a year-long driving adventure around North America. At 55, we've decided, let's take a gap year, a decision that proved to be equal parts exhilaration, trepidation and panic. As the departure date draws near, Monday coming. Oh, so you'll be on it now? The exhilaration, well, that's winning out. But back up just for a moment, Bill, with one L. You've sold up, you bought yourself an RV, and you're working from this office on 4 wheels, touring all sorts of amazing places around North America. Please share your secret. Where can I get a job like that? He says, going several octaves too high. I tell you what, you should set up a podcast. I promise to be your first subscriber. Anyway, says Bill, I've been delinquent in keeping up with the show, and for the reasonably daft reasons summarised above, have just finished episode 385 with Andy Fisher. This, by far, is one of the best episodes, in my opinion, and resonates deeply with me. I, like Andy, find considerable peace and clarity when moving about the hills, big or little, and more so when I'm travelling alone. Don't tell Mrs. Bill that. And just for the sake of my other listener, quick break for the letter. That episode was the one where I climbed what some have cruelly, I'd like to think teasingly, described as, Neil, just a big hill, when officially it is a Snowdonia region mountain. So there. As much as anything, though, that episode was all about facing life's challenges. Come on this way, pups. We've got the swans following us today. They're mean. I've said this to you before. They're mean around here. They're just a bit mean-spirited. Swans are supposed to be beautiful and all the rest of it. But around here, they're sort of hissy thugs. They are, aren't they, pups? Come on, this way. But Bill, I'm pleased you enjoyed that episode. It was another metaphorical mind map of moments, he says, squeezing a few M's together. But I'm really glad you enjoyed it. There was certainly a focus on mental health and well-being in that particular one. The meditative state of walking, says one-elled Bill, scrambling and sometimes true climbing, provides space for all our minds to sort and file or discard the stresses of our all too busy lives. Mental health is a topic that needs much more discussion in our society. Fortunately, Bill, I think it has. As we heard last week, talking with Justin, one of our retreatees on the Scottish retreat, mental health is a conversation that, well, there goes one of the pinstriped expresses. Mental health is something that, thanks to that thing that shall never be mentioned that starts with the letter C, has been far more on the agenda than I believe ever it were in general conversation, at any rate. Mental health is a topic that needs much more discussion in our society, says Bill, not from the perspective of diagnosis, but rather from the sharing of meaningful tools and skills, strategies and so on, particularly when presented by folks who find direct success in the application or inclusion of these tools in daily life. Oh, I wish I'd put it that way myself. So much more eloquent. I'm deeply appreciative of you and your guests tackling this topic on such a regular basis in such a compassionate manner. Hearing other stories of struggle and improvement, or dare we say success, has helped me with my own mental health, and photography has also played a role. All because, I shall have to hide behind a sofa at this rate, all because of the Photowalk. Look at this, Bill. Barney, are you right there? That has got to be so cold, honestly. Don't you dare shake next to me. Bill, let me hide behind you. This is not, Bill, supposed to be false humility, but I think you'll find that's really this whole talk of mental health, the important talk we have of photography in that process as well, is really a result of letters like this. I commented only the other day that I'm delighted that folks who contribute here seem to get it, because I honestly don't know of another podcast, certainly in the photographic genre or arena, that does this, and I mean that. I've looked. I mean, a couple have popped up and tried, but and that's fine. But I think the consistency of your letters... No, not I think. I know that the consistency of your letters and your thoughts have me coming back to this week after week after week. And honestly, sheer joy, sheer delight making this cast. I might wax lyrical about that later on as well. Stand by. Anyway, says Bill with one L. On to more photography-related topics. My camera kit has been languishing in the backpack as we push through the minutiae of preparing to be gone for a year, but I did manage one quick informal photo shoot with a local farrier. I don't normally shoot this kind of stuff. I prefer landscapes and standstill and no need for instruction. But Scott the farrier was kind enough to let me get in his way, crawl around on the ground, underneath the horses, careful, and generally be very effective distraction, as I kind of learned this on the fly. The business of being a farrier is not for the faint of heart or weak of back. After some 30 years of plying his trade and perfecting his craft, you can see the physical wear and tear on his body, both from the work and from the injuries sustained in the unintentional conflict that arises when you're working around hot metal. Yes, and I can see by your photograph, look at that steam. Whew. And independently minded horses, which is a way of saying they kick out, I suppose. I'm not surprised. I mean, I've never quite understood how it all works. You know, this hot metal reaching your hoof. Neil, you're certainly showing that you just don't understand horses. I am, aren't I? He's a gentle, quiet approach, this farrier. Sets the horses at ease, and he works with an efficiency born of mastery. With all this, he carries on out of deep understanding of the role he plays in the health of the horses, and it was a pleasure to make these few images. Several of the pictures, you know, turned out quite nice, I'd say. And all the images were well received by Scott. That's the nice bit of this. Nice is such a benign word, sorry. But that's the great thing of this, isn't it? Making pictures that others can then use, can enjoy. You know, you feel of, and we've used this word before, you feel of service. I've attached a couple of my favourites, and a handful more can be found at, it's a link that is sent to me, which I will share, of course, on the show page. A couple have been edited a bit, but most are straight out of the camera. Further editing pending a slower pace. Once more on the road. Enough for now. I need to get back to deciding what does not come with us on the trip. Thank you from Bill, with one L, at the Wanderbies, which I would imagine will be will that be the Instagram feed for your wandering life on the road with your RV? I have to say, I'm very, very envious. Truly I am. I can't hide it. It's an incredible adventure that you're about to have. So I don't feel... come on, pups, this way. I don't feel in the least bit mean-spirited to set you some homework. I would like some pictures of the RV, the road ahead, you two, the places you find, the food you cook, to start winging their way into the inbox. That's a bit demanding, Neil. I know. But let's be honest, he's about to have a jolly. I know he's saying he's taking his work on the road, but really, come on. We're all looking over our spectacles at you. Anyway, oh, by the way, I'm not sure if you'll be in this part of... no, you probably won't, actually, but I'm in Fort Lauderdale next August, and I was thinking about organising some sort of American photo walk, if you're up for it. I know, Bill, you'll be further away, in a different state altogether, but if you're not, then it would be lovely to meet up. But your letter, Bill, is perfectly timed with the tone of my short conversation today with a Nessie Hunter, in terms of, well, just making stuff happen. You know, whatever age, young or more mature, thinking, you know, hang about, let's just do this, ... Anyway, let's have some moments from episode 385, as you mentioned this, an edition called, oh, that's lovely, walking across a small weir. See? That's audible relaxation for me. An edition called Conquering Life's Mountains, recorded with, I like to think, a very dear friend now, Andy Fisher.
I think one of the things that I think I'm a fairly typical guy of my generation, in that I try to be a provider. My job as a teacher means that it's very outward facing, and I'm often looking to meet the needs of lots of other people rather than my own. And I think mental health issues can creep up silently. It's a bit like carbon monoxide poisoning. You don't notice it until you're feeling sleepy. And it was, I think I didn't realise how much I needed this sabbatical until it was offered to me. And then I realised that I was quite stressed. I was getting quite snappy at home. My health had taken a hit, and I just found the kind of colour of life had gone. I wasn't feeling miserable, but I wasn't feeling anything. I was neutral and just going through the motions. I also didn't share that because I was doing that typical male thing of grit your teeth, get on, don't make a fuss. So yes, I think it's really important to have opportunities like this. I'm really lucky to have, you know, how many people can take 3 months off work and I'm still being paid, you know? It's a very rare opportunity. I'm very lucky to have it. And it's given me a chance just to reset, to reconsider what my values are and what my drivers are and what I want to do in the next phase of my life, really. So, yeah, but the takeaway for me has been how insidious it was, how easily I would have not noticed it. And it could have got a lot worse a lot more quickly. So thank goodness the sabbatical came when it did.
We talk about photography as being something that takes you outside, that gives you a purpose, a reason to be outside. For many people, that's how photography starts, actually. I think there's a bit of a mixture with you. It's not so photographic, is it? It's more about the experience of being out, because when I go home tomorrow morning early doors, you're climbing 3 mountains.
I am, yeah. I'm here for another 4 or 5 days, and then I'll be coming back in about a week and a half's time again. So it's about getting up into height. It'll be a totally different phase, because I've had the pleasure of Dan's company, then yours, and all of a sudden tomorrow I'm on my own, and I'll be on my own until Sunday. And if I go up into the hills and take overnight kit, there's a good possibility that I won't talk to another person or see another person for 2 or 3 days, and that's a rarity, isn't it, in our culture now? Because suddenly it's you and your own mind and time, And I tend to take my watch off, and I tend to eat when I'm hungry, I sleep when I'm tired, and I spend the rest of the time walking and observing what's around me.
I had to talk with Andy about a wild camping trip, and I haven't forgotten about that. Life's a bit busy in his life at the moment. We went from climbing our mountain to, back down to earth with a bump. Normal work, but we're rolling into winter here, and so I'm not so sure now that might, I'm pretty sure actually that it feels to me like more of a spring adventure. Right, a couple of Wish You Were Here postcards, then I have somebody I'd like you to meet. These will be on the show page today. The Wish You Were Here feature, well, they're postcards essentially. Pictures of where you live, where you visit, adventures that you have. I don't know, it's pretty wide open to be honest. And we'll start with Robin Chun. Please consider my image, he said, sending it in, called The Nature of Solitude, for the Wish You Were Here segment. That sounds very official. When it becomes a segment, my word, that needs merch. The photograph was taken in Marmaris, Kos, in Greece, a place I absolutely love. I was on holiday, he says, there last week. Landscape photography, not necessarily my bag, but I could not resist this sunset. I can understand why. It felt to me, having lived in the Canary Islands, there was something each year called the Scirocco, not the car, but something that brought sand across from the Sahara, and often of a day during the heady heights of the Scirocco, then the sky would, sunset in particular, and sunrise I think as well, but definitely sunset, would go very, very ominously orange, which is beautiful, but for the fact everything was covered in sand all the time. And here's another one from Peter Turnbull, this time in Australia land, who shared his story, his personal photographic story of how he became a photographer, a real life change moment actually, on one of our live Zoom shows. Was that a couple of months ago? Was it 3, Peter? I don't know, these months. They're zooming, quite literally, by. This, by the way, is the kind of picture, though, Peter, which will be on the show page today, that has me looking menacingly at my credit card. It really does. But the only trouble is it looks back at me and shakes its head in a horizontal plane, that is, not a nodding fashion. Once again, hello from sunny Queensland, says Peter, better known as the Sunshine State. We're just walking past one of the locks that the canal boats go through, just in case, again, you're hearing. What is that hiss, Neil? It's not a hiss, it's water running. Beautiful. Once again, hello from sunny Queensland, better known as the Sunshine State. You're probably sick of me saying this, but this is what winter looks like, says Peter, in Queensland. I shot this with a drone at Kirra Beach on the Gold Coast during what was supposed to be a surf competition. A group of local ladies of all ages and abilities get together regularly to surf, have fun and generally connect with each other. They're called the Surf Witches Board Riders Club. Fantastic. I've been shooting them for some time now and enjoy just hanging about on the beach with these like-minded souls and capturing the action. However, as you can see, the waves didn't show up this weekend, so everybody just paddled out and had some fun in the sun. Is there a better way to spend your day with a rhyme? I know you wish you were here. Cheers from Peter. Right. Oh, this way, pups. Just about to walk into somebody's... Don't go there. About to walk into somebody's barge. Very rude, pups. Thank you for that postcard. I do wish I was there, and I think it is. I'm hearing the noise of have a drone. Come on, pups, have a drone. You need to make pictures like this. Have a drone. Right, Steve Feltham is officially the Nessie Hunter. I don't need to say more than that, really, because, about Steve anyway, because it'll be an absolute spoiler for what's to come, which is really a short chat, actually, and a portrait, more than an interview. Somebody who I've known about really for quite a while, and being in Scotland last week for the photo retreat, well now, Not far away from Ness either, this was an opportunity to go and find and talk to the man himself, who apparently does not give interviews too easily. I didn't know that until I tried to talk him into having a quick chat with me, and subsequently I've read that Steve is, well, I suppose actually, I mean, not that he'd be fed up or tired of it because he wants to share the story of hunting for Nessie, but I would imagine he gets asked for a lot of conversations. Hi, how are you?
Not too bad, thanks.
Good, perfect. Oh, I think my dog would love that.
Yeah.
Lovely, look at that.
Dogs do seem to love that.
I bet. There's a dog running backwards and forwards on the... would you like that, pups? Running backwards and forwards on the top of the barge, having a great time. He's going for a walk without really going for a walk. But yeah, Steve is not necessarily the easiest man to talk into having conversations. And I think some of that might be because, you know, you get people that just want to concentrate on the, are you a bit of a, excuse the colloquialism now, are you a bit of a nutter routine? Anyway, let me paint a picture for you here. Loch Ness, 22 miles long. It's a deep freshwater loch. It's hugged by forestry and mountains to the south, with towns along the way that sound more Scottishly Scottish than if they'd be made up for a book. I mean, I give you Drumnadrochit. Drumnadrochit. The largest loch it is by water volume in Scotland. And imagine at the northern end, at the tippity top, a car park next to a pub. And then, oh, there's a cyclist as well. Blimey, it's like Piccadilly Circus here today, pups. There we go. Where were we? Oh yes, imagine at the northern end, the tippity top, a car park next to a pub, and then think of the lapping waters of Loch Ness, where at the far end of that little car park, the loch practically kisses an old 1970s mobile library van, converted to become home for a man called Steve Feltham, who decided to dedicate his life to the pursuit of the creature commonly now referred to as the Loch Ness Monster. Cue the music for some monster facts, I think, and a sinister-ish sounding voiceover from my studio self.
According to Britannica, that thing that handily now fits into your computer that used to exist only in book form, so heavy that the shelf in our house on which the volumes rested once toppled during a house party in the 80s and went through a window, a real party stopper. Well, according to Britannica, reports of a monster inhabiting Loch Ness date back further than thought. Well, further than I thought. To ancient times. Notably, local stone carvings that depict a mysterious beast with flippers. The first written account, though, appears in the 7th century biography of St. Columba. According to that work, in 565 AD, the monster bit a swimmer taking part in cold water immersion, long before Wim Hof had made it a thing for the rest of us. And apparently the beast was prepared to attack another man when Columba intervened, ordering the beast to go back. It obeyed, obviously, and over the centuries only occasional sightings were reported. Many of these alleged encounters seemed inspired by Scottish folklore, which abounds with mythical water creatures apparently. Fast forward though to 1933, and the legend began to grow. At the time, a road adjacent to Loch Ness was finished off, offering pretty good views to the lake, perfect for the casual influencer and Instagrammer, if only there'd been such a platform in those days. In April of that year, 1933, a couple saw an enormous animal, which they compared to a dragon or prehistoric monster. And after it crossed their car's path, it disappeared into the water. The incident was reported in a Scottish newspaper, and numerous sightings began to flood in. A local head of police refused to rule out the possibility of a beast really existing, and that was enough negative to make a positive for the press, and so the modern era of the beast was born. Approaching Christmas that year, the British newspaper The Daily Mail commissioned Marmaduke Wetherell, a big game hunter who's just begging to be played by Steve Coogan, surely, to locate this sea serpent. Along the lake's shores, Marmaduke, perhaps fueled by the furore of the legend and a decent double tot of something local, found large footprints that he believed belonged to a very powerful, soft-footed animal around about 20 feet, 6 meters perhaps long. However, upon closer inspection, zoologists at the Natural History Museum decided that the tracks were pretty much identical and made with an umbrella stand that had a hippopotamus leg as a base. Like a closing scene from a Scooby-Doo cartoon, those pesky kids had been rumbled. Marmaduke Wetherell's role in the hoax was unclear, though it's questioned still to this day why the umbrella stand that used to be by Dukey's door mysteriously vanished 90 years ago in the middle of winter, of all times. And so everybody went back to their lives and the mystery remained a wonderful mystery, just waiting for Steve Feltham to rock up in his former library van, determined to get a picture to finally prove the existence of this beast from beneath the surface of Scotland's most famous loch.
About, it must be 5 years ago, maybe, I was watching YouTube. You know how YouTube has a habit of offering you things you didn't know you really wanted, and there was a film about Steve Feltham who drove a library van, and probably because I quite like the idea of van lifing and travel, maybe that's why YouTube served me Steve, who became... Are you called the Loch Ness Monster Hunter? Some people call you that. Various names.
Nessie Hunter, I
Nessie
suppose,
Hunter,
is
yeah.
that would be my website as well, so I'm happy with that moniker. Yeah.
So tell me about that journey, because you got in this is the library van. I'm thrilled to be sitting next to it, actually, because it shows... I will do a link to the YouTube film so you can see this as well.
Yeah.
But you set off, and I didn't realise at the time, actually, you set off with BBC cameras around about the same time that I was working in London at the Beeb as well.
Yeah, it was 1991 when I was 28, and the penny dropped that the rat race was not all it's cracked up to be, that you get your 2-week holiday a year, which I worked out at the time is 4% of your annual, the days in a year, is your 2-week holiday. 4% you get to do what you want.
That's depressing.
And that to me was not enough. And Loch Ness was always my place that I would come back to time and time again with a tent, just trying to solve the mystery for 2 weeks. And come the age of 28, I thought, no, I want to do that, get it out of my system, get up there, try and solve the mystery, and see what becomes of a full-time Nessie Hunter, because it's not been done before. So I bought this old mobile library van and set off in the summer of 91. And I filmed for the first year for the BBC Video Diaries series, and that was very much a self-filmed project. They would just supply the videotape and leave me to it, really, and I would just, when I'd filled a box of 10 tapes, I'd post them down to London, and they'd post me 10 more tapes, and on we'd go. And that programme, I suppose, once it was shown in August of 92, that cemented my position on the side of Loch Ness, because up until that, for the first year, I was just an anonymous bloke in a van that I suppose locals would have looked at me going round and around Loch Ness and thought, well, he's on a long holiday, that guy, he's not gone back to Dorset or wherever he's from. But as soon as the programme went out, everybody knew exactly what I was doing, why I was doing it. So people actually started queuing up to buy the little models that still are my only income. And I think with that programme, a lot of people watched it fully expecting to have an hour-long portrait of a nutcase in a van that's trying to find the Loch Ness Monster. And the reality was they would start watching it with that in mind, but the very end of the programme, there's such a payoff to which turns it completely on its head, where I basically look straight down the camera and say, it doesn't matter what your dream is, it doesn't matter what you want to do with your life, if you don't do it, the only person that loses is you.
Yeah.
And that chimed with so many people. I still to this day get people, this is 31 years since it was shown.
Wow.
And they turn up here, probably half a dozen people a year nowadays, and say, just wanted to come and shake your hand because I saw that programme you made, and that forced me to quit my office job, and I now paint pictures on the Côte d'Azur or whatever they do, you know. And to me, that is just as important a part of my life as my personal mission statement of trying to find the Loch Ness Monster. I also stand as a beacon, as a lighthouse, really, to other people that are in a job that they don't like doing, that look at life and think, God, I wish I could climb mountains. I wish I could do whatever I want to do. And, you know, if they look at what I do and say, well, blimey, if a bloke can buy a van and go and find the Loch Ness Monster and be as happy as he is, then surely I can make a life busking on the streets of Paris or whatever they want to do. Doesn't matter.
That's a really interesting twist. And yes, I've seen the end of the film. Yeah. But hearing you really express that as you being this, well, you called it a beacon, this beacon of somebody's hope. It doesn't matter whether you believe in a monster or what a monster means or faith in it doesn't matter, does it?
It matters to me, the mystery of the Loch Ness Monster, but that's what motivates me to get up in the morning. Yeah. I open my curtains in the van and I'm looking straight down the length of Loch Ness. And so, for me, in my life, I could not be happier with my lot. I've cut a path that nobody had done before and not been scared of the unpredictability of starting on this adventure. Yeah. And that's fine for me that this is my mission, but that's most people around the world really don't give a damn whether there's a monster in Loch Ness or not. I realise that, and it doesn't matter. I'm not doing this for the benefit of really anybody but my lifelong curiosity. And to be self-sustainable, following my dreams, that's as much as I could possibly wish for. To inspire the occasional other person to go and do things that I don't want anybody else to turn up in a van trying to find the Loch Ness Monster. Thanks very much. They'll probably do a better job than I can. And I would rather, you know, people that want to do something, want to be a painter, want to be anything, go and follow your dream. Make it. And even if I've met people that have turned up here. One guy, he bought a van. He saw my programme. He bought a van and he went and lived on the Isle of Skye. And he lived there for 3 years in his van. Then he ran out of money and he had to go back to the rat race. And about 5 years after getting back to the rat race, he came up here and he said, I just wanted to shake your hand because you made me go and have the 3 best years of my life. And okay, it didn't work out long term, but I'm so glad that I saw your programme and it pushed me over the edge to go and follow my dreams. So yeah.
What's out there, Steve? What do you believe is out there? What is it? This is a big question, but what does it look like? I know through my youth I had the obvious, well, it's got a long neck, and probably having seen the pictures, the original pictures. What do you think's out there?
Well, like you, all through my youth, and when I turned up full time, I was looking for long-necked dinosaurs, plesiosaurs. Yeah. And I wish that could turn out to be the answer. Yeah. Now, 32 years into sitting and watching and waiting, I know there's not a plesiosaur swimming about in here, unfortunately. But it's not, the identity of the Loch Ness Monster is not up to me. It will be whatever it turns out to be. Yeah. All I know is this is one of the world's most cherished mysteries.
It is.
Yeah. And it's got the pursuit of it. I think I recently compared my attitude to it to a fisherman. That if you speak to a fisherman about what motivates him to go and stand on the side of a river for so long catching fish, it's not to take that fish that he catches and show it to somebody else and say, look, here it is, here's the fish that I've caught. It's the chase, it's the hunt, it's the methods of trying to find it, it's the pursuit. And I think that's what I'm hooked on, the possibilities, the hunt, the various snippets of information that we get, all this stuff just building towards one day, hopefully we'll be able to say, well, the answer is it's X.
Although I'm sitting here talking to you and Steve really does look out into the loch all the time. It's a very focused look, just in case. But I'm wondering if there's not a part of you that might be disappointed if it were found. He or she or it.
Yeah, there's possibly a part of me that thinks, well, if I saw the thing, I might not tell anyone, just because I'm too content in my beach life existence, staring vaguely southwest.
Because this van's never going back to.
It's never going back
to Dorset, is it?
No, it's never going back to Dorset, and I'm quite content sitting here. Yeah. People often ask me, is what you do, is your mission the mystery or the lifestyle? And for me, it's 50-50. I love the pursuit and the mystery, and I love living in an ex-mobile library on a beach with what was that view that you're looking at there in front of you was recently voted the 6th best landscape view in Britain. That's enough to open your curtains in the morning and think, I'll just sit and see if I can spot a monster today.
I'm going to be a bit naughty, and please feel free to say no, but one of the things that captivated me when I first saw your film was the fact that you were driving along in an ex-library van. I love that idea. Can I poke my head around and see what's in that library van? Or is that a mystery?
That's part of the mystery, and that's my missus just turned up, and so I think
saved by the missus.
Saved by the missus.
I'm going to ask you one more question instead. Then it's a question I ask a lot of the creatives, and you're creative, that I have on the show, and often it's a question that ends up with a photographic answer, but I think it might be a life answer in your case. What's Steve Feltham's why?
Unpredictability, I think. In 32 years here, I have seen so many unexpected adventures and been involved in the ones that I choose to be involved in. Yeah. So even if there's a time throughout the year where I think, there's nothing on the horizon unpredictable coming up, I know through experience, through decades of sitting here, that it's not far away. The next adventure is just over the hill, and what it'll turn out to be, because every time the next adventure just fills my heart with joy, and the unexpected. I don't plan much. I wait to see what rolls in, what adventures turn. I consider my life to be an adventure, but it's a very rare adventure that I'm a static adventure. I'm sitting here on Dawes Beach. I consider this beach to be the Champs-Élysées of the north, that everyone and everything that you're going to want to meet and see in your lifetime at some point is going to stroll along this beach.
What a lovely thought.
Yeah, so I sit here and I wait to see what next adventure, including Nessie popping up. That's a daily expectation, and decades roll on, but the adventures keep coming, and that's my why, the embrace the unpredictability.
And my thanks to Steve Feltham. I shall pop my portrait of him onto the show page today, and a link to the film that we talked about on the show page. That'll also be there. And whether I'm famously, you know how I can, whether I'm connecting dots that don't properly make a picture or not, I think there really is photographic connection here. That photography, for me at any rate, and I'm sure going by the letters I read, that photography is we're very much like our, here we go, stand by. I realise you're going to look at me over the top of your glasses now, I do. Is like our mystery from the depths. Oh, Neil. No, really, it is. Those depths of our creative souls. Careful, Neil. You are dangerously close to sounding like you're sniffing the dandies, but it is. I do think it is. Where we're searching for either the Holy Grail picture. I know some people are. I know definitely landscape photographers who say they are and do. Or maybe a genre. Maybe we're looking for a different genre. I know I spend a lot of time now musing, I really do, over making better landscape photographs. For many, many years, and until I presented this podcast, I can't admit to have been really, really interested in landscape photography. Not the way that I am now. This really has opened my eyes. Anyway, before I get too poetic, fantastic to meet Steve. In the interview, I suggest it's, as I say, a few mere few years since I watched that film. But to correct myself in all ways, it's actually much longer. I think the fresh air had clearly gotten to my head. It's beautifully fresh in Loch Ness, that's for sure. What a wonderful place. It is absolutely stunning. And I think there was a touch of hero worship. There was. I mean, he, for me, is... Well, he just has this amazing story, which starts pretty much in the same year that I joined a kind of rat race, although it was broadcasting, and I loved it. He was escaping from... Well, not the BBC, he was working in a different job, but with those BBC cameras that were just down the road from me. And I followed his story, and, well, if you watch the film, you'll probably understand why. Well, hopefully you might understand why there's an inch of hero worship there. Anyway, this seems as good a moment as any, following our wonderful experience of Scotland and the Scottish photo retreat, to mention Africa 24, which now has only a handful of places left. We are off for a holiday, a retreat, an expedition, an all-in-one exciting adventure to the smiling coast of Africa, the Gambia, where we'll be spending time with the people of this wonderfully small country on the west coast of the most incredible continent. We'll be making river trips, visiting markets and villages, being at one with the wildlife, making documentary projects and experiencing the food of the region. It is a 10-day guided photo trip, and one of the things that I believe is going to work really well, there's three of us guiding it, is that we get to spend time with those who are coming individually, walking around those markets, spending time finding stories, and of course giving you the time that you need to be alone. It's a retreat after all, to go and spend time just being immersed in this wonderful culture and country. So if you'd like to know more, go to the link on the show page and also on the menu bar at the top on photowalk.show. Here's one of our guides, actually, photojournalist Jason Florio, with some thoughts about the fabulous country you and I are going to be exploring.
I've found, with my few visits, I've found a certain sense of reverence is necessary. You can't be bombastic with a camera. I think you have mentioned to me before about having a conversation, just striking up. We've talked about the word hello in the last couple of weeks alone on the podcast as being the most important passport to photography anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I think the Gambians are... I'll give you just a very quick anecdote. When I very first went to Gambia, the very first week I was there, the guys I was staying with asked me to go into the village, well, it's not even a village anymore, and now it's a big town. It's called Brekama, which I think we should definitely make a stop there. It's a very vibrant, probably the second largest town in the Gambia now. And I went into, kind of one of these little local shops, and I just said to the guy, I need some string. And the guy sort of looked at me up and down, and he spoke very good English, and he's like, you're supposed to ask me how my morning is, you're supposed to ask me how I am. And I kind of profusely apologized. I mean, I was fresh off the boat, but it did, for me, it's having lived there for so many years, the greeting is essential, I think, and there is a little bit of a sort of a backwards and forwards patter of how are you, how's the family, how's the people in the compound, that kind of thing. But once you've done that, I think it sort of lubricates the situation, and I think that's something that's really important for all of us, when we're visiting places, to understand how those sort of social norms work and be open to using it. We can't just sort of go barreling in. Yeah. So I think we could definitely on our photography expedition, we could definitely do some very basic kind of Mandinka or Wolof greetings, which I think people will be will definitely help ease the situation.
I have to ask a very practical question. It's something that you're used to, because when you live there, it's just par for the course of what you wear each day and what you do and how you act. When you're in the Gambia, in terms of when you go exploring, what do you wear? What do you wear on hot days? I know that sounds a really practical, perhaps even boring question, but I think it's really important for anybody that's not explored with a camera in a hot country like Africa before.
I think clothing is kind of an essential question for sure. I mean, I always wear long trousers and normally a long sleeve shirt, which I can roll up. I like things with lots of pockets for sure. A hat definitely. is an absolute must. Yeah, I mean, some people like to wear shorts, but I find, for me, culturally, you don't see Gambians walking around in shorts unless you're on the beach or you're on the football pitch type of thing. Right. So I feel there's a certain decorum that I like to carry, which, you know, most of my friends will tell you I have no decorum at all. But but as far as sort of dressing appropriately, I do feel that I like to kind of cover up something loose. Yeah. But I think being culturally sensitive is very important. And, you know, we're never going to blend in, but I do feel there's a certain sort of respect level that I like to portray in what I wear, and maybe that's just in my mind, and the Gambians don't give a damn how you dress, but it's more for me to feel, you know, kind of comfortable.
No, thanks to Jason Florio. Very much looking forward to spending time with him, and you, if you're coming along on this Africa retreat. Do you know, I've been a number of times. I call it a trip of a lifetime every time, because I don't believe that number is singled out to be just one digit, the number one. You can have many trips and experiences of a lifetime, can't you? The assignment, I should give that a mention, really, because having been away, it wasn't that my eye was necessarily taken off any ball, but last week we didn't remind you that the assignment is there to take part in. There's a link to it on the show page, and I'm looking forward to seeing the pictures that you produce from it or for it. Hang on. Just ducking underneath a branch. My mind went from almost my head went as I banged into the branch. Yeah, looking forward to those pictures you make for the assignment. Right, here's one from Australia land. This is from Kim Cofield. You've mentioned, Neil, a couple of times that you'd like to hear from us whilst we make our own walks. Today, I decided to record some audio for you whilst out walking the pups. As I was recording, I realised I felt I was not only talking to you, but also to your other listener. I don't know why, but I imagine part of that has to do with a sense of community that we have within this podcast. It was a lovely realisation, the sense of talking to people who understand me, despite not actually knowing each other. Funny what the brain can do. You're absolutely right, Kim. That's radio rule, not necessarily number one, but must be somewhere in the top 10, that when you're talking into this microphone, you are essentially talking to, well, this is what they teach you, you're talking to one person. You imagine that person. I think we've talked about this before. Yes, we have. And that's the person you're talking to. But you never share that person. Well, you're not supposed to. See? The other listener. The other listener for me is sometimes not as well behaved as you are. That's for sure. Anyway, let me play a little of what Kim recorded. We're going to join you with your 2 bundles of bark, Kim, as you walk in the Australian bush. Quick sound note. There's a little wind noise over the recording, which happens when you don't have that sort of fluffy attachment around the microphone. Whether that's a phone, because I have one. It's called a dead cat. Strange name. It's just a bit of fluff, really. Expensively priced fluff, I might add, that fits over the microphone. And my one could do with a bit of a hairbrush, actually. And I do believe there's a creature living in it as I look down at it. And that sounds disgusting, Neil, but it does keep out all that, all the wind that blows at your microphone that produces this kind of noise underneath and over you. But you can hear what Kim says, and that's more important. Let's join Kim.
Hi, Neil. So you said you wanted some audio from us doing our walks. So here's some audio. I have with me my 2 puppies, Theo and Claire, and I've also got my iPhone, which is what I'm recording this on, and my X Pro 3 with my 35 1.4. So we are walking in a spot that we really enjoy coming to. It does feel like, on a good day anyway, like you're the only ones in the world. It can get busy down here over a weekend from time to time, because where I am, which is down a location known as Psyche Bend, located here also is the old pumping stations that used to pump water from the river to the town. These ones are no longer in action, but there are of course new ones just up the road. But being the fact that it's along the river, where we're actually walking is a, well, I call it like a lagoon. It's not a lagoon, actually, it's a billabong. That's what it is. Had a brain fade. It's a billabong. And it's beautiful in a ugly kind of way. I've grown to appreciate it. Sometimes I look at the Australian landscape and I don't really like it. I find it, oh yes, thank you. I find it a little bit ugly, but I have come to appreciate its beauty and I've come to love it. And the fact that it's me and the dogs out in the world, so to speak, it's probably the most important thing. Today the sun is out. Leave it, please. Good dogs. Even if my body isn't feeling good, sometimes you do the thing when it's good for your brain. So here we are, walking.
Barney, I need you to learn from the pups there. Use of the word please from Kim, which I don't know, I'm imagining, worked very, very well. Come on. Just a quick thought though, while in between the two pieces from Kim. Sound and recording sound. Now, whether that's directly talking into a microphone, which I know for some people is not frightening, but not necessarily the easiest of thoughts. Whether it's that, although I still believe everybody has a voice, and you find it only by doing this sort of thing that you think, do you know what? That's great. I can, I'm recording my memories, I'm recording my history, or whether it's something like just the sounds like this stream over here. Barn, join me over here. Stop pulling your lead. Here we go. Water's very, very high at the moment at this particular stream. So it's running reasonably fast, but you see that's sound, is it pastiche? But it's sound from the places you go to. Interrupted by a dog barking. What do you want? And trying to do, look, this is timing, isn't it? Here we are talking about Kim and Kim's two pups who seem to be very well behaved. Didn't hear a squeak out of them. And you're barking for this. One more, then can we have a bit of silence while I finish the last few letters for this show? Don't walk on the letters. Come on. So yeah, sound is something I'm definitely putting into the next few retreats. We'll do some workshopettes about that, certainly in Africa. Oh, the sound of an African sunset. Oh, and then Scotland next year, which we have dates already organised. I'll probably come to that next week. Let's rejoin Kim though, shall we? As she's found, but not actually, her Mally's tree, a dead tree that she's been photographing for a while now. Found but not found. Sounds like the title for a song. Come on, we're going this way.
It has to be somewhere, but it's not where it always was. This tree was just so important to me because it was the first thing I photographed when I fell back in love with photography. I bought an X Pro 1 and an 18mm lens, the original one, and I come down here and I rediscovered my love for photography. I was in a bad place mentally, really bad. And something about that moment, that remembering why I love to take photos, has stuck with me in the ensuing years, which would be, 8 years, 7 years, something like that. I can't even recall. So now my tree is gone, or, well, it's moved anyway. It's been washed somewhere else. So now that means, this way, Theo. That means we're going to have to find it, because if for no other reason than to take a photo of it in its new location. This way. Yeah, so, anyway, I just thought you might want to know, you and your other listener might want to share in my confusion, surprise, slight sadness. But I suspect this is a to be continued because, well, now I have to find the thing, right? Anyway, that's enough for me. I think you've had enough.
Kim, Never enough. Oh, I'm being rained on. Never. No, surely not. We're being rained on, pups. This doesn't happen in Australia land with Kim, I'm sure. Well, it does actually, Neil. It does. Yes, as proven by your story with the tree that's disappeared. Come on, puppy. Oh, that was horrible. Went all down my back. I wasn't prepared for that. Hang on, that wasn't in the script today. It's kind of letters week this week on the Photo Walk. We've heard from Steve Feltham as well, I know, but I wanted to, well, for a while actually, I've been meaning to get through a few more of your letters. We've got work to do this autumn and winter to get through your letters, but don't stop sending them in, because that's what fuels this show. Send them to stories@photowalk.show, 2,500 pixels wide, please, when you're sending your pictures in. If you can't do that, don't worry, send the full resolution ones in, full size, and I'll do the heavy lifting for you. If you can, try not to put borders around them, because we have a particular style on the website, so we don't really need borders. And if you can try and avoid watermarking, I'll make sure that we put appropriate links up to your Instagram, your Vero, your websites, or whatever. Right, here's one from Boston land. Hi Neil, I recently visited Boston to video record an event for our company. I'd not been back to Boston for quite a few years. The extent of my sightseeing was limited to the hotel, except for a group trip to the top of the Prue, so named for the supporting building, the Prudential Centre. Yes, I'd sort of gathered that one. Oh, by the way, this is Bob of the Desert, writing this letter. Now it's called View Boston, a major tourist attraction. I worked and lived in Boston for years back in the 80s and 90s. It was so different then. Now as I walk around the observation deck, I'm flooded with melancholy. This is not the city I left. But is it ever? The towny neighbourhoods have been infilled and gentrified. I can't afford to live in this town that was once mine, says Bob. This is just a fact. And though I'm owed nothing, I do sense loss. But I'm glad to return to my home in the desert. See, Bob of the Desert, where I will stay, if only to avoid the feeling of loss upon return. Keep walking, you enrich so many lives. He wrote that, not me. I'm feeling uncomfortable again. Quick, bring out the sofa, pups. Bring the sofa out. We can hide behind it. Did you know that would make a great photo shoot, wouldn't it, round here? Big red sofa. It's been done before? Oh, okay. Suit yourself. I'll pop the pictures, Bob's pictures, on the show page today. You flatterer, you, Bob. I think I've spotted the one with you in it, by the way. But no clues. I'm not about to launch a Where's Wally, don't worry. And then the final letter. We used to sing this part, or I used to. I'll spare you my I think I sound like Robbie Williams in the shower voice, but I'm sure I used to sing Last Letter of the Week or something like that. One from Susan Larson. Now, this could be a postcard as easily as a letter, but we'll go with a letter on this one since there's more than one picture to share on the show page. Hello, Neil, says Susan. It's been a while since I've written, at least with fingers to a keyboard. Seems I've written many letters in my mind, but they haven't gotten any further. So I thought you might enjoy seeing a different side of our lives. The last time I wrote, I described life in the wilderness of Washington State, including close encounters with a moose. You did, didn't you? We were talking about that with our Kelly on the retreat, about people that take extraordinary risks getting out of their cars when there's a moose in the road, as if they're going to be able to somehow, I don't know, remonstrate or reason with this huge animal. Excuse me, you wouldn't mind just popping off the road, would you? Here's a good moose. Anyway, there's another side to our lives, says Susan, except for the sea years, yeah, that should not be mentioned. We have a summer house on the west coast of Swedenland. What? And you've not invited me yet? An old farmstead where my mother-in-law was born, and that's where we spend our summers. Have we read this letter or a similar letter? Have you told me about this place before, Susan? I'm not quite sure. It does seem more than vaguely familiar. Maybe it's just in my dreams. Maybe, Susan, that's what it is. As in Washington, every day we're out with the cameras, usually on trails that are so well marked it feels like you're on a treasure hunt. And I suppose the treasures are the photos you find along the way. Yes, you're right. Usually we walk trails along the coast or in the forest, but the west coast of Sweden also has some of the most charming former fishing villages and now summer homes to the elite that you'll ever see. And though our photography usually focuses, yes, see what you're doing there, on landscapes and nature, the fishing villages are one form of street photography. They can be, can't they? And this former city girl, born and raised in New York City, I want to go into New York every time I say that, enjoys. I'm attaching them and hopefully they'll be the right size for the page, which they are, Susan. I've done a sort of montage, which will be on the show page. Although I'm not officially doing a 365, it's a rare day that we do not manage a photo, and most days I post on Vero. I'll put the Vero link on the show page underneath the montage. You can see photos from our other walks here in Sweden and also from Washington earlier in the feed. As always, thank you for the podcast. It keeps me company as I prepare the week's meals, batching every weekend. That sounds far too organised. Batching your meals. Yes, I'm going to put you at the top of the organisational list. Thank you, Susan. Your pictures and the other pictures that we've mentioned, and the few, I've not made that many actually today, on my photo walk. I've not done as much sketchbooking as I usually would. See, I've been concentrating on your letters. But you'll find everything on the show page today, and a few films to watch as well that relate to what we've been talking about today. And that's it for our letters edition. We have studio guests back with us from next week, but if you can't wait until next Friday and you want to walk a little bit further together, that's what the Extra Mile show is all about. And number 55 is waiting for you. I think I might have got the number wrong last week. Did you notice? No? Good. All right. The Extra Mile is part of our Patreon channel, where our wonderful community of walkers and photographers who want to help keep this podcast here week after week make a modest or generous monthly or annual contribution starting from the price of I looked this up. I thought, what is roughly £3 a month? Because that's what it is. It's a skinny vanilla spice latte. I mean, we're not even talking frappuccino prices. This week, some good friends join me. Extra Mile Mally Davis, a sort of rap, really. He did appear last week, I know, a bit, Neil, a bit, but he does wrap it up nicely. And rapping is, he's rapping on the door where I was staying, tried to get me out to photograph fog on the morning we left Scotland land. Anyway, there's that, and Valerie Jardin talks to me about confidence.
On this week's Extra Mile.
Yeah, and actually I always recommend new photographers to go to busy places because you're a lot more invisible, so it will help with your confidence, right? Or to go with a friend, even if it's a non-photographer friend. Two people will be a little bit bolder.
It's worth a go. This is the thing, it's worth a go to just take some shots. And I know people profess to say don't crop, but in this situation you haven't really got time to think. The light's changing rapidly. Just take the shot and see. Can you see there how that tree's sat in the middle?
In the middle of the fog. Look at that, it's got hay bales all around it. I almost got Mally excited then. That's on this week's Extra Mile. Thank you for the letters that you've been sending in, really, truly. I was asked on the retreat one day by one of our number in the midst of a deepish conversation about whether we'd truly found what we were destined to be in our minds. It was quite deep. Fear not, asker of that question. I know it was quite a deep personal conversation that I shall not relay, of course, but amazing what you talk about when you're when there are just the whisper of light winds in the trees around you. You know, 6 of you bimbling along a path, quite spread out, having a chat with each other. But I was asked that question. It was, I think we asked each other that question. Has it worked out as you thought? Are you doing what you thought you might be doing? You know, in the sense of the title of this show, if I may shoehorn that back in, have you really found what you're looking for? And I think I honestly have. And I don't understand how to make it more of a life than it already is. That bit I don't quite get. I'm not very good at commercial. And it's pointed out in a letter I shall read over the next few weeks. So, yeah, I don't quite understand how to make it more of my life than what it is. I mean, whether I'm kidding myself to an extent might be another question. Photography podcasts on the whole, they're not really a living. Sports bar ones, they are. Crime ones, they are. I could give you a long list. But photography, do you know what? I'll take this further into the extra mile this week as conversation. But in short, my answer was, you know what? Yes. Yeah, I do think I've found. Don't do the song title, Neil. You know what I mean. And I think I found it quite unexpectedly, reading letters from creatives and those who just like to walk and think. I know looking up in the air, my mum might say, "Oh, darling, are you sure you shouldn't just go get a normal job?" Oh, she was very, very, very supportive, was my mum. But I think she worried about the creative industry. I think she thought, can you just be an accountant, really? I don't mean just be an accountant. For those that are accountants, just wasn't I'm digging myself a big, deep hole, but you know what I mean. Whereas my dad, he would have said, you can be anything you want. And I'd have notched it up on the notice board of you can be anything you want conversations I had with my dear dad. But your letters, your thoughts, what I read has become very much a part of my life. So please do keep writing those letters in. And I'll keep walking with them, along with our studio guests, who, as I say, return next week. So I do think I've found what I'm looking for. And until I find a way of making it more complete, I shall, I'm going to assume the title of today's playout song, which today is from Age of the Bear. It's called Go With The Flow.
Well, I spend my days scrolling down my feed online, and all the finds, all my friends are doing well. One's playing shows of thousands, one's traveling the world, while I'm wondering how far I fell. I'd like to ask the ghost of time, is it worth a second try? Will I rise above the clouds, or just get lost within the skies? Well, comparison and prediction will only tie me to the ground, so I'll try to stop from sinking further down. Myself can get so out of hand, but I think I'm getting closer to the truth. Not everything that's thorn and lights can make it past the glare, and to make a change that lasts beyond its youth. Oh, I'd like to ask the ghost of time, will I look within and look behind? Will I wrestle with this moment? Wash me in its tide. Well, it seems that my resistance to the flow just slows me down, so I'll go the way it wants me to for now.
Age of the Bear, Going With The Flow. And yes, If you think you recognise it, that's because we have closed with it once before. It's a song I truly love, and I find it a very inspirational play-out song. The music that you make just the final couple of pictures by. I'm going to make my final sketchbook today. What should we do, pups? I quite like this. The path just going off. I like. Well, you know, I like those sort of dark, tunnely like pictures that where the path is just lit in one part along the way. And you're left thinking, oh, what's in the dark? What's in the dark? Here we go, 640, shutter speed, 5.6, ISO 160. The sun's coming out nicely. Oh, make the most of this, pups. Hey? There we go. A sketchbook to close the week. Just a few closing thoughts before my PS. My sincere thanks to you if you are or about to become an extra miler. My promise to you is we'll keep building this community of kindness, a safe place to share our photography and our thoughts. Talking of which, on the show page, there are some very handy buttons now that you can help share the show. I know one of them still says Twitter. We're working on that, he says, looking at Neil Ford, head of IT, who's looking back at me saying, are we? You didn't mention it. Also, my sincere thanks to Andrea Gilpin, who looks after Instagram. I know I was rubbish last week, Andrea, keeping up with, putting anything really from the retreat. Oh, I tell you what, it was busy. I know that's an excuse I don't like to use, but it was. I shall put it right, I promise. There's pictures to come from the retreat that will be on our Instagram over the weeks and months to come. Kelly Mitchell, thank you, and Emily Renier for your work in the Facebook group. Right, a postscript for the show. Today, it's from the Paper Towns movie, although take these words and you'll find a few different versions of. And maybe it links to the feeling Bono had in the song we've been talking about, the title of the programme today. But it's this: you have to get lost before you find yourself. Come on, boss. Stop pulling your lead.
The Photowalk is a Loading Zone production.